Chapter 10. Getting Reacquainted. Tayayu had debated about storming over to Naruto's apartment after leaving her like that again, but decided against it. She wanted to get some sleep, she would just her revenge tomorrow. When she awoke the next afternoon, around 10, she got dressed and went to find him. Currently Naruto was cleaning his apartment. It had been vandalized in his absence, so he had a lot of work to do. Naruto was currently writing his list of things to get at the hardware store as he heard someone knock. "Come in." Tayayu opened the door and saw him doing whatever it was he was doing. She came over and hit him on the head. "Shithead." Naruto groaned as he rubbed where she had just hit him. "What is it, Tayayu-chan? I know you like to hit me, but I doubt that is the only reason you're here." Tayayu looked at the list Naruto was writing. "What's that for, shithead?" Naruto looked at her. "I have to fix up my apartment since it was vandalized while I was gone. I was just about to leave, so what is it that you need before I go?" Tayayu looked at the list, then at him. "We need to talk about some things." Naruto looked at her, then nodded his head. "Well, you can wait here. Come with me or we can meet up later if you like." "It's up to you." Tayayu looked at him. "How about we meet up for dinner later?" Naruto rose his eyebrow at her. "Like a date?" Tayuya's face turned red and she shook her head. "No, of course it's not a date. Who would want to date you?" Naruto scratched the back of his head. "Well, that was uncalled for, but I suppose you're right. When and where, Tayayu-chan?" Tayayu looked at Naruto and felt bad about what she had said. She just figured to apologize later. Tayayu thought about it. "You can take me to Ichiraku's tonight at 7, do you understand?" Naruto looked at her. "You want to go to the ramen shop?" Tayayu looked at him, then shook her head no with a small smile. "You're in for quite the surprise, shithead." Naruto looked at her in confusion, but she left before he had an answer. Naruto pushed it out of his mind, then went to the hardware store to get the things he needed. He got some wood, nails, tools and glass to do all the repairs he needed to. It took him most of the day to fix everything, then quickly took a shower before getting some clothes on. When he finished, he went to Ichiraku's and saw that it upgraded from a ramen shop to a full-blown restaurant. Naruto smiled, happy that someone he had been somewhat close to had gotten so much success in his absence. Naruto walked in and requested a private table for two, saying that his guest would be arriving later that evening. Ayame nodded and smiled at the blonde man. "It's nice to see that you are back, Naruto." Naruto smiled and nodded back at her. "Thanks, it is nice to be back, Ayame." Personally, he didn't know if that was 100% true. There were things he had missed about the village. That was true, but he didn't know if he was happy to be back. Ayame led him to a private room where he could wait for his guest. He gave her name and sat there waiting with a water glass. He didn't plan on it, but he had been a half hour early to this dinner with Tayayu. 45 minutes passed and Tayayu showed up. "Hey, I am supposed to be meeting someone here. Tall, blonde, dumb ass, shithead. My name is Tayayu." Ayame nodded. "Naruto has been waiting for you." I was starting to think that he was stood up. Tayayu blushed, then went to comment, but Ayame was already walking. Tayayu quickly fell into line behind her and stopped as she opened the door to the room Naruto was sitting in. Currently he was just staring out the window, then looked over at them. "Tayayu-chan, glad you could make it." Tayayu nodded as he stood up. He walked around the table and pulled out her chair for her. Tayayu blushed a bit as Ayame smiled. "That's a good job being such a gentleman to your girlfriend, Naruto." Tayayu blushed a little more as Naruto looked over at Ayame. "She isn't my girlfriend, she doesn't view me in that manner. Give us about 10 minutes to decide on what we would like to eat, please, Ayame." Ayame nodded her head and closed the door as Naruto scooted into Tayuyu's chair for her. Naruto walked around to his side of the table, then looked at her. "So, what do we need to talk about, Tayayu-chan?" Tayayu looked at him as she took a drink from her water, then pulled out the note he had left her all those years ago. Naruto looked at it, then at her. "So, what about my note do we need to talk about?" "I don't understand." Tayayu looked at him some more. "This isn't the only thing we need to talk about, shithead, just one of them." Naruto continued to look at her, then nodded his head. "Okay then, Tayayu-chan, where do you want to start?" Tayayu put the note on the table. "Let's start with how you were lying to me the whole time." Naruto scratched the back of his head. "I just wanted to make you happy though, Tayayu-chan, that is all." I liked how it made you smile and a bit happier that we were that way. I didn't mind it. I wasn't completely lying to you, I was just holding back my power. Tayayu looked at him. Do you understand why that made me upset, shithead? Naruto shook his head no, and she sighed, though she wasn't surprised that he didn't understand. Tayayu looked at him. I didn't like that you lied to me. I liked the idea of being one of the few people that knew the real you, but I didn't know the real you all the way. Naruto scratched the back of his head. So, you wanted to be close to me. I don't understand. I thought that being close to me was an idea you hated. Tayayu blushed again. What did you mean in your note about crossing the void of friendship? Naruto looked at her, blinking a bit. I thought you would understand that, Tayayu-chan. I developed feelings for you a long time ago. I had you confirm what it was like to care about someone in that way, but you also told me you only see me as a friend. I felt that you should know regardless though. Tayayu looked at him. She had guessed that was what he had meant. Tayayu went to ask another question, but Ayame came in and took their orders. When time passed, Tayayu went back to asking him questions. Why do you keep kissing my forehead? Naruto looked at her, thinking of the proper answer to give her. He figured that saying because he wanted to and liked to was the wrong answer to give her, but he couldn't think of anything else. Naruto scratched the back of his head while thinking, because I wanted to and liked to. If you dislike it so much, I promise to stop. I didn't think you would hate it so much. Tayayu looked at him. I never said that, shithead. Naruto gave her a confused look. If calling her Tayayu-chan made them look like a couple, he figured that kissing her forehead would as well. Naruto couldn't figure it out. I don't understand. You don't see me in that manner. You were offended by the idea of this being a date. You always get upset if we are thought of as a couple. I figured that you would hate that I did something like that. Tayayu remembered how she reacted earlier when he asked if it was a date. That's another thing. What I said earlier. I didn't mean it. It's just how I react to those types of things, you know. Naruto blinked again. Does that mean this is a date? Tayuyu's face turned red again, then she shook her head. No, this isn't a date, shithead. Naruto had a bit of a disappointed look on his face that she caught before he looked at the door. It opened and Ayame brought their food into the room. They both ate their food in a bit of an uneasy silence. When they finished, Naruto looked at her. Is there anything else that we need to discuss, Tayayu-chan? Tayayu continued to look at him. Yes, do you still, like me? Naruto looked at her some more. Is this a trick so that you can hit me again, Tayayu-chan? Tayayu shook her head no. She genuinely wanted to know what his answer was. Naruto continued to look at her, then looked out the window. Yes, but I know that you don't look at me like that, Tayayu-chan, so you don't have to worry about it. Tayayu looked at him for a moment, debating on if she could tell him how she really felt. She had spent a long time denying it, but she knew she truly had romantic feelings for him. Naruto paid the bill for them and then opened the door. Would you like me to walk you home, Tayayu-chan? Tayayu nodded as she stood up and walked with him, still debating on if she should tell him or not. She had denied it to everyone that ever asked, including him, that she held those feelings. When they eventually got to her apartment complex, he gave her a small smile. See you later, Tayayu-chan. Naruto looked at her, thinking about kissing her on the forehead but decided against it this time. Naruto turned to leave but stopped when she grabbed his arm. He turned to face her, seeing that she was internally debating over something. Naruto just continued to look at her. Is there something else we need to discuss, Tayayu-chan? All she could do was look into his blue eyes. Although the pupil itself had changed into that of a fox slit, the deep blue was still there. Tayayu continued to just look at him, then released his arm and looked away. It's nothing, shithead. Naruto knew she was lying to him. Even he understood that much about emotions and facial expressions. Naruto gently took her hand. What is it, Tayayu-chan? You know you can tell me anything, right? You're my best friend. I want to help in any way I can. Tayayu looked at him, deciding that she was going to tell the blonde-haired man what she felt. She stared at him, mustering up the courage, and went to speak. Unfortunately, she was cut off by a voice she didn't care for in the slightest. Naruto. Is that you? Naruto looked over to see a flash of pink hair before he was tackled to the ground. Naruto looked to see Sakura hugging him. Why are you hugging me, Sakura? Sakura looked at him for a moment. Well, we are friends, I missed you while you were gone. Why didn't you write me? Sakura looked over at Tayayu, a glare on both of their faces. Then Sakura looked back at Naruto. Sakura stared at him. Were you on a date with the sound skank? Naruto went to say no, but he was cut off by Tayayu. What if we were, you pink-haired slut? Why don't you go try to spread your legs for the Uchiha? Or he is too busy being balls deep in his boyfriend. Sakura glared at Tayayu. What he does with Suigetsu is their business. Tayayu rolled her eyes. Get off of him right now, you slut. Just because Sasuke plays for the other team doesn't mean you get to have him. Sakura smirked. Oh, is the sound skank jealous? That's funny since you always said no one would ever date Naruto. Tayayu glared at Sakura. If looks could kill, the pink-haired Kunoichi would be dead. Sakura looked back at Naruto. You don't mind me being on top of you anyways, do you, Naruto-kun? Naruto looked at her. Please get off of me, Sakura. Sakura looked at him in surprise, slowly getting off of him. Naruto stood up, then looked at Sakura. Why are you so suddenly interested in me anyways? Just because Sasuke is now apparently gay. Sakura looked at him, then looked away. Well, that may have played a part, but you always liked me, I thought. We could be a couple and I can make you happy, Naruto-kun. Tayayu growled. Don't call him Naruto-kun. Sakura smirked again. You're so jealous that it's sad. Funny since you always complain about him. Just go away, sound skank. This is a private discussion. Tayayu crossed her arms as he continued to stand there. Sakura rolled her eyes. Naruto-kun, why don't we go get some ice cream then go back to your place for a good time? Tayuyu's mouth dropped. You're such a slut. Sakura glared at her. Shut up. Just because I like what can be done to me, you prude. Tayayu smirked. I thought that I was a skank though, you stupid bitch. Sakura growled and grabbed Naruto's hand. Come on, Naruto-kun. Tayayu grabbed the other hand. Stay here, shithead. Both females were pulling on one arm and he sighed. Sakura looked back. Do you really want to stay with someone who won't even use your name? Tayayu glared at her. I use his name all the time. Sakura looked back. No, you don't. Eventually he will have a woman in his life that isn't you. Someone who pleasures him and makes him happy in ways you can't. Tayayu growled. I can make him happy that way too. Naruto was extremely confused by what was going on around him now. Naruto pulled his hands free from both of the women. I have no idea what is going on. Sakura, whatever it is you want, the answer is no. Tayayu-chan, I am extremely confused. Can you explain all of this to me, please? Sakura looked at Naruto. Are you really so clueless that you didn't understand that I was trying to sleep with you? Naruto looked at her, then looked at Tayayu for clarification. She nodded her head yes, making him understand everything. Naruto's eyes widened, then he looked back at Tayayu. Wait, you said that you can do that as well. Tayuyu's eyes widened as she blushed and looked away. Shut up, shithead. I was in the heat of the moment is all. Naruto scratched the back of his head. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Sakura smirked. See, Naruto-kun, she doesn't want you in that way. Let me make you happy. Naruto looked at her. No. Go away, you slut. Sakura was taken back by the comment, then turned and walked away with an angry sway in her steps. Naruto sighed as he looked back at Tayayu. Well, bye Tayayu-chan. I hope we talked about everything you wanted to talk about. Naruto gave her a small smile and Tayayu quickly dove at him and kissed him gently on the lips. When they broke, she looked at him. I will see you soon, shithead-kun. She quickly ran up the stairs to her apartment and slammed the door shut, panting on the other side. She had a blush and a small smile from what she had just done. Naruto, on the other hand, was frozen in confusion for a moment, then looked up at her door and smiled. See you soon, Tayayu-chan. Naruto started to walk, then stopped. Wait, shithead-kun. Oh come on, why can't she call me Naruto, damn it? To be continued.